Alright guys, so welcome to one of my tutorials. In this one I'll be explaining some modeling techniques that I used on one of my university projects. As you can see, it looks like this, and let me just jump straight to the perspective view where I can show you some of those layers. If you look at the object, then you've got two elements. The first one is the bigger one, like a loop-like, and the second one is just some kind of a pillar. I will be building it in this tutorial just to one of them because all those modeling techniques are the same. Now, just to show you those layers we need to build, this is the facade. Let me just hide it for you. Then there are some bearing structure elements which are holding the whole building together, as well as windows with windows frames. We've got our floors and the core of the building. So we can jump straight to the file I prepared. As you can see, there are some things already. It's nothing special really, because I just wanted to have something to start with. Normally I would have to model everything from scratch and it would take a lot of time. You don't want to spend like an hour or something with the tutorial. And as you can see, this is a simple line, and there are some profiles we will be using for our sweep modifier. The way I've done those, this is really nothing special. You just go to shapes, angle, you create an angle and make sure it's three-sided. There you go. You can just convert it to an editable spline. Select all the vertices, and there is this option named fillet, which you can use for rounding up those edges. This is basically how I've done it. Let me just delete this for you, and we can begin modeling. I'll just select my line, apply a sweep modifier. Now, really a fast way to do this is if you press X in a 3ds Max, you can write down those commands, and I'll just write down sweep. There you go, sweep modifier, confirm with the enter, and I'll just use my custom section, which I will pick my spline. As you can see, it already looks like the building almost, but we need to do some adjustments. At first, we can go back to editable spline and we can turn on the show end result so that we can see what we are actually building. Right now, I can increase the amount of steps, and as you can see, it already shapes up. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I want to have this height of those segments approximately of one height of a window, because I'll be building it off of that. So I think this is pretty good. What we need to do now are some adjustments in a sweep modifier. If I go to the sweep parameters, I can adjust some values in order to achieve those results I'm looking for. I think something like this might work pretty good. I need to adjust my angle as well. No, it's just for some looks and not really anything special. It's a lot of time just experimenting probably, but you know, you don't really have to do that right now, and I don't want to spend so much time on that. Alright, so this is already looking pretty good. The last thing I've done with this was a twist modifier. I can apply it. Make it just a little bit more interesting. And as you can see, this one part below is twisting as well. I don't want that, so I can use my bias to even it out. Something like that might look pretty good, I guess. And the last element, I will just build this because there is one modifier I was using, which might be interesting for you. And we will begin with our sweep modifier. I'll use my custom section and pick the middle one, a smaller one. Now we need to adjust our elements again, our segments. I will just show in the result and try to crank this up to approximately the same height as those other elements. This is probably too much. Yeah, I think this is working well. Now, if you look at the sweep modifier, there are already those settings I've set up on the building before. I don't want that, so I can just zero it out. If you right click on those arrows, it will pretty much zero out everything. But I just need to adjust this angle a little bit to my needs. Something like this might look good. And the one modifier I used here was a taper. Let me just change the center of the taper, because you would get really not good results with this. I'll just move it in the middle of this building. And if you start playing with those values right here, it doesn't look really great, but there is this great option named curve, which will make quite an interesting shape, I have to say. So this is basically how I've done this second building, kind of. Now you can play with the center as well. As you can see, you can achieve different results. I'll just leave it like that. And right now, when we have something like this, there is one more thing we need to change. If you look at this building, there are quite a few segments that I don't really need. And you can change it if you go back to the profile spline. And again, in the interpolation, we can take a look at this. If I decrease the number, my segments are, well, my segment amount is lower. In this case, I think I like this result, but we actually don't need those vertical segments there. I can delete them with an optimize, because this is a straight line and it kind of deletes all the unnecessary vertices in the spline. And this is pretty good result right now. We can start building our elements and everything that we need. First of all, let me just select my objects, and I'll move them to another layer. Just move it to my base shape and rename them to something like a bigger building. Something like this might work well. And a smaller one, I will just leave it like that, because I'm not gonna use it anymore. I can hide it as well. And let me just copy this. We'll be using a couple of copies, because we need one for our floors. We need the second one for our all inner parts, like the bearing structure, all the windows and everything. And the third one will be used for the facade. So let me just copy that. You can do that with the Ctrl V. I will make a copy. Rename this to floors. Then make another copy. Or rename this to inner parts. And make the last copy, which I'll be calling facade. There you go. Now, we still have our initial object, but it doesn't matter. I will be showing some different techniques on a facade and different variations, so we can use it for that. Now, let me just hide those that we don't need. I will begin with the floor. The way to do this, I will just create a plane which covers the whole building in a top view. Now, if you take a look at this, there are some segments in between that we don't really need. There you go. I'll just put it to 1. Apply a shell modifier to give it a thickness. Now I want it to have half a meter actually. So 0.5, there you go. And I want to create an array. Array is under tools. You go to array. And if you take a look at this view, you can see we will need to copy our floors in a z-axis. So let me just make a preview of that, and one floor will be around 4.5 meters. There you go, you can see it right away how it looks. And let me just fill the whole building. Something like this looks pretty good. Now I need to attach all these parts to one mesh. You just go to Edit Poly, Attach by List, and select all the planes that we already created right now. So I have this right now, and all I need to do to get all my floors, I just go to the compound object and use a pro-boolean operator. It works really well with that, so let me show it. You will choose just the intersection, and that means it will take both objects and show only the mesh that is intersecting with each other. So I'll just pick this object there, and there you go. This is pretty much it. I'll just change the color to something grayish and change the layer as well. I've got here. I'm sorry. So, like that. And I can rename this to floors. And move it to the inner part layer. So we are pretty much done with this. Let me build all these inner parts right now. So let me just close this. And the way I'm going to do this is I will be detaching all those parts separately. And it's not going to take a lot of time, even though if it looks like it. So I will begin with an editable poly. Select those polygons. Because we don't need them anymore, I can delete them. And now start selecting those edges there. I'll select them. If you make a ring selection, it will select all those edges through the whole building. And you can make a polygon selection with that. If you press down Ctrl and click on the polygon right there, you get a polygon selection, and right now I can just detach it. So like this, I can name this windows. There you go. Right now this is a bearing structure. And I'll just change the color to make it more visible basically. We are done with this. Now let me just select this other object and go to edge mode. Our edges are already selected, so I can work with that. I will begin with connect and make a couple of segments right here. I think 6 might work pretty well. I'll confirm. And one of those steps right now is just go to chamfer, make it around around 25 centimeters, I guess. Yeah, this looks good. Confirm. And the last thing to do is just selecting one of these edges right here. Now under graphite modeling tools, you can find the option to select loop with a dot. That means it will select all the, like a loop, but with gaps in between. So if I press that, you have selected all those windows there. Let me just make a ring selection again. I'll convert it to a polygon with a control click. And I will detach it. Now we've got our bearing structure selected for our windows. So let me just press that and change the color for this. And the last element pretty much are those windows. I will select all those polygons there and apply an inset. You just need to change the inset to by polygon in order to achieve the result you're looking for the windows, because you need all those windows separately and it goes through the whole building. There you go. If you do it by group, as you can see, it's not doing what you're looking for. So change it to by polygon and make it around, I think I'll just leave it on 10 centimeters. Something like this looks good. and we can detach them as well. Detach, name it windows, and we can name this object window frames. So like this. I'll change the color to white and apply a transparent material to my windows. Now, if you take a look at this, you can see it looks quite good, but there is no thickness in the building, and way to do this is pretty simple. Just apply a shell modifier everywhere. Confirm, and let me just make an outer mount for half meter, something like this looks good. Now apply another shell modifier for this object. In this one I will do it a little bit more different. I will make it 1.2 on the outer shell and 1.4 on the inner one, so that those elements are interpenetrating in the floor as well. Alright, so the next element are those window frames. Just make this 0.1 might be good. 10 centimeters is quite good, I guess. Now, this is a little trick that I'm gonna give you. If you apply a push modifier here, push, you can slide this glass on the on the inner frame. As you can see, I'm sliding it through. What push modifier does is it takes each and every normal of a polygon and it pushes it towards the normal normally. So you can change the position of it. I'll just move it in the middle, then apply a shell modifier and make it like 1 centimeter or something like that. Alright, so this is basically finished, and I can just select all of these elements and move them into the inner parts. So if you unhide this, you have your whole building also with those floors in it. And pretty much the last thing that we need to do is unhide my facade, select it, go to Edit Poly Modifier, and delete those polygons again because we don't need them. We can apply a push modifier because I want to offset it from the initial building. Apply a push modifier, and if you take a look at this, I will just slide it a little bit through. As you can see, there is a slight offset. I'll set it to around 2 meters, I guess. Yeah, this might work fairly well. I guess this is good. Yeah, just leave it on this. And the way I've done my facade was, let me just show you at first all these options that you have, all the different ones, and then I will show you the one I actually used for my project. So we can go to Edit Poly Modifier, and this method that I'm going to use not requires, but I think it's much better if you have even distribution of your polygons. So I'll just add some segments in between. I'll just select my ring selection, make connect in between, and try to make it even with those polygons right here. So I think this is working fairly well, maybe like that. Yeah, this is good. Alright, so right now we have fairly even distribution of our polygons, and if I select all of those polygons under the graphite modeling tools, you've got some option to generate topology. Let me just select this and we can play around with this. This is fairly nice, and if I try some different results, you can take a look at this. Now really cool thing about this is you can combine it with different ones. So if you just try some different results there, you can get every time something different that looks maybe interesting to you, maybe to someone else. Right now I'm pressing Ctrl Z just to undo, because I'm just trying all the different options you have here. Just to walk you through it. Now, this might be interesting, maybe not. And you see all those patterns. Now, let me use this one, for example. What you can do with this is just go to, well, you could do this in this modifier or apply another one. I'll just make another edit poly for this and select all the polygons. If you do an inset of each and every polygon right here, you can pretty much make a new facade for the whole building. So let me just make this around 0.25, something like this, confirm. And you see, if you press F2, you can show those polygons like completely red or just selected edges. And I can detach this, just detach, confirm, and change the color of this so that we can see what we're actually doing. Now I can apply my transparent material on this glass right here. Apply a shell modifier to give it a thickness on my facade. The thickness will be a little bigger, like 30 centimeters, something like this maybe. And as you can see, there is we can apply a shell modifier on the glass as well, but I'm not going to do that right now. So this is another version of a facade that you can use, basically. I'll just delete this class. Delete my shell modifier as well as this polygon. And we can go further with that. So if I have this, we can try some different variations. As you can see, this is some crazy one. And you can do pretty much the same thing with it. It just gives a different result. You can play around with it, and yeah, I'll just leave that to you. Now I'll show you how I've done my project. It's a little bit different, but basically the same. Now, you have a free plugin which is called Warofrag. It appears as a modifier. You can select it, and you can basically fragment your object. Oh, let me just hide this for you. You can basically fragment your object onto different chunks, and you can still change the number of it, how many chunks you really want. Let me just make it like around 250 or something like that. And now you can see it is definitely not perfect because there are a lot of mistakes in it. And what you can do is basically just try different seeds until you find something that works for you. Yeah, this is again screwed up. There was something else missing. I think there is some problem with the push modifier. Just try to apply edit poly in between. Something like that, and delete the Warofrag, apply again. Yeah, you need to play around with this. This is just a method I used, and I did spend a little bit more time on this testing. Yeah, you can try to change the number of chunks until you find something that works for you. If you find something like this, yeah. Or maybe not. Yeah, just normally it works actually fairly well. Never mind, I'll just leave it like that. And basically what you can do with this is go to editable poly with this, and it basically creates a lot of elements from the object. Before it was just one element, right now you've got quite a lot of them. And if you select all the polygons and do an inset of this, but not like by polygon as we did before, but by group, because right now they're all separate elements, we can do this kind of a effect for our facade. Yeah, so there you go. This is how I've done it. Now I played around with those different seeds, but it doesn't really matter right now. So I'll just confirm. You can detach those. And change the glass to the transparent material. And there you go, you can apply a shell modifier to it. Let me just do with the X shell. There you go. And this is basically how I've done it. So yeah, there are some other things you might try it as well. Now, for example, you could go, let me just show you something. If I apply a turbo smooth modifier right now, you can see there are some holes in it. The reason for that is, after we've done this Vorofrag, after we fragmented this object, I showed you all these elements we had, and they actually are still separate. So what we can do to join them together, we can go to vertex mode, select all the vertices and weld them together. So just confirm, as you can see, it will weld about 3000 vertices. Just confirm. And right now, if you go there, make a shell modifier and turbo smooth, they are holding together. Now what you can try is, after you apply a shell modifier, you can apply a relax and play around with this. Now this will make some alien-like looking results. You can play around with it and until you find something that you like. And with the turbo smooth modifier, it has a little bit more of a different effect actually. But this is basically how I've done it. I hope you liked it. And I think I'll see you in the next video. Thanks a lot for watching.